Thank you all for being here so early in the morning.
Do you want to be introduced?
Oh, yes, please, please. I wasn't starting, actually, but come on over.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat this morning. We have flown in the one and the only amazing Karen Bird, who's going to speak to us and deliver her intelligence, her intuitiveness, her amazing light is going to shine on you and brighten up your morning in a way that you can't even imagine. It's so amazing that Larry Ellman is coming in to see her as well. And so with no further ado, Karen Bird!
Thank you for that amazing introduction.
You're welcome. Are you wired?
I am. I'm wired somewhere else. Yes. I think I'm good. All right. Okay, so my talk is how to make money with athletes. I'm always looking for different ideas. So I'm going to talk about how to make money with athletes, and I'm also going to talk about some of the things that I do with athletes. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about why I work with athletes. So let's see. Starting in college, I started to date a collegiate wrestler and followed him around, did all his stuff. Typical white picket fence story, got married, had children. Our first son was named Josh. I wanted to name him Jeremiah, but Josh was tougher on the mat, so we had to name him Josh before he was even born. And then I had 3 other boys. And Josh was kind of a freak of nature, really, really, really good athlete. He not only was a good athlete, but he had this mindset that he was invincible, unstoppable, and he could do anything in life. He was a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy. He started wrestling when he was 2, I think. He would go to wrestling meets, and we have pictures of him like standing in the wrestling stance. Well, actually, it's like this, but and we had a wrestling room, so we have a 4-car garage. 2 of them was a wrestling room. It's called the Bird Pit, which my last name is Bird. That's where all the training was done. We spent hundreds and hundreds, thousands of hours, hundreds of weekends in wrestling rooms. All 3 boys wrestled, but Josh, for some reason, had something that was not what most athletes have. And the reason I say that is I remember sitting at wrestling meets, and first of all, there was a lot of wrestlers that would forfeit before they ever started wrestling with him because they were afraid of him and they didn't want to lose. And secondly, I would literally sit there and watch the wrestling mat, and I was not nervous at all because it didn't matter what he was wrestling. I knew he was going to win. He was a 2-time state champion, 1-time state runner-up. The last year he was injured, so he couldn't wrestle. He was multi-time national champion. He went to Ukraine to wrestle. And he was a determined Spitfire boy that was really pretty fearless. And so he had strength and determination. He was unstoppable, and he really believed in himself. So I started learning a lot from him about what is it to believe in yourself so much that when you step onto the mat or into the court or onto the field, that there is no question that you are going to win. And I would ask him questions like, well, what is it in you? Like, how do you, I mean, I'm really proud that I'm one of your parents and we've instilled this confidence in you, but where do you get it? Like, how does that happen? And he would say, I just literally turn off my mind and turn into an apex when I step on the mat. Okay, I do use that strategy with some of my athletes. And so that's how I got started. When I got into hypnosis, it was for hypnobirthing, then became a certified hypnotist. And I was working with everyone. I was that generalist hypnotist that wanted to work with everyone, because if I picked a niche, then, you know, those people that have anxiety or want to do smoking or weight loss, they probably wouldn't find me. So I was just going to work with everyone. Although I did start in the beginning to work with athletes because my husband, who was a coach, and a coach, he helped me write a script because he had all of the language in his head. He knew what it was to have a tough mindset. So we started with wrestlers, And I did that for probably, just dabbled in it. I read every book I could read on mindset training. Josh went to the Olympic Training Center to train one summer, brought back that psychology manual. Every book I could ever get my hands on for sports psychology and mindset training. And this developed as I moved through. In the meantime, we had a couple foster girls, and Josh went to college. And I flew out to a few colleges to look at colleges with him, and he ended up getting a full scholarship, room, books, board at a wrestling school out in Nebraska. And that is why I started. Because what I learned as I started to work with athletes is there's a lot of reasons to work with athletes. A, they're the easiest clients. B, when you're working with youth, high school, and collegiate athletes, their parents will pay anything because they want their children to get the confidence. They aren't afraid to refer. They aren't afraid to tell others why they're doing better and why there's this remarkable change in them in just a few sessions or even that first session. And it was kind of my tribe. Although what I'm learning now is that it doesn't have to be your tribe because athletes are everywhere. They are a massive untapped market, as Joni knows. We talk about this all the time is we wish more hypnotists and hypnotherapists would work with athletes because they're so easy to work with. And they are everywhere. And it's not emotional. I remember early on, I would spend hours and hours researching and looking things up and what script should I use and what technique should I use and with all the other clients. Yet when it comes to athletes, and it becomes, obviously you have to learn like everything else. Now it's more intuitive, what do they need? But before that, it was a pretty cut and dry, this is what they need, it's mostly confidence. Once you say Joni, like it's mostly they're looking for confidence or shift in enjoying their sport again, but a few main things. Focus, right? So just a few main things, which it's just learning that technique, right? And then how do you tweak it for them? So Josh went to college and had a mishap and ended up signing himself out of college his freshman year with his scholarship because he got himself in some trouble with an empty bag of marijuana under his bed. And he also had a hunting knife that was 3/4 inch too long. He had some camping gear, and he was being charged with 4 felonies. And so without us knowing, he signed out of college. And he wrote us a letter in the airport and hit the send button before he stepped on the airplane. And the letter basically said, I got into some trouble. I was forced to leave college, and it was the hardest decision of my life. And I'm so sorry to embarrass you, and I'm going to find what God has for me. And I'm taking the SIM card on my phone, and I will contact you when I have time, when I get to a payphone, basically. So I remember thinking, oh, wow. Like, he was in the future Olympians list. He planned on going to the Olympics. That was his dream. And all of his dreams crushed in one night where they went into his room because his empty Adderall bottle was a couple dorm rooms down because he had spent the night in a friend's house or a friend's dorm a few days earlier because his roommate had a girlfriend over and he had finished his Adderall, he had ADD, and he had left the empty bottle. And I knew that because he had called that day actually and said, I need to renew my prescription. Well, that was enough for them to search his room in the middle of the night and pull him out in his boxers and find these things. In hindsight, I think they were making an example of him. He was the first athlete in the college, and the college had been in existence since 1902 that had the scholarship that he was offered. And they obviously were making an example because they found these things and they had to do something with it. It was a small town in Nebraska. So anyways, he hops onto the plane and lived in Florida for a couple months. On my birthday, he came home and said, I can't do this. I really want to come home. So he came home and he lived at home for a little while, and that didn't work out with him and his father. So he moved out, bought a house, and he was a carpenter. And the reason I tell you this story is because it's all part of my journey I started working with athletes because athletes were in my world. I learned they were easy. I started to niche with them. But now I have a bigger reason, and that is because I have an absolute knowing that Josh wants me to help as many hypnotists and hypnotherapists as I can to help athletes get the confidence, because there are so many out there, and it's what we realize is it is for any child that's an athlete, and there are so many of them, it's a framework of how they start to live their lives. They learn determinations, they learn how to lose, they either learn how to believe in themselves or not believe in themselves. And for me, it's become this legacy of, I get to do this for Josh, and I know there's a lot of things in my life that I get to do for Josh. And so Josh was home for a little while, and when he was 23, he died in a motorcycle accident. And that's why I know that there are a lot of things in my life that I get to do for Josh, because there's a lot of connection there. In fact, last night, this is so interesting, is we had the fire alarm, right? You guys, who had to leave because of the fire alarm? I know Ken did, just a few of you. I was just telling Ken, it was the craziest thing last night. So when I fell asleep, I was tapping into Josh, and I said, Josh, help me to reach as many as I can, and just so they get some nuggets from today. And I remember him giving me a message, and I thought to myself, I should write it down, but I was too tired, so I didn't. I do that with my dreams all the time. And then the alarm went off. And I said to Connie, when we were downstairs outside, I said, that's the weirdest thing. I was dreaming about Josh, but I can't remember I was dreaming. And here's the thing, you guys, today's his birthday. And so I said, but I can't remember. I wish I could remember. Maybe I'll remember later. And so we were outside. I don't know, we were talking 45 minutes, maybe an hour, right, Ken? And I came back in and laid down and got into that theta state that we get into with hypnosis, the lucid dreaming state, right? All that same thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I remember what it was. So right before that alarm went off, I woke up and I get these daily messages. You guys should check them out from the universe. And it's Mike Dooley, and they're TUT messages, the universe. And they're daily messages, and they're beautiful quotes like, you're wonderful, or the stars up here are aligning with whatever. And so I read those every day, and they have this red TUT on top of them, this framework for these emails. And I saw that, but instead of TUT, it said urgent, urgent, urgent. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And again, this was right before the alarm went off. And then I heard Josh saying to me, Mom, Mom, Mom. And I truly believe he was warning me. He's so present in my life. And I know that there's so many things that I get to do the rest of my life. In fact, I'm writing a book right now with him. And I'm also in a Master Leadership Emotional Intelligence course where we get to do a thesis. So I have 2 hours that I get to have anyone on, and it will be around connecting with your loved ones in spirit. So you guys might be getting an email on it if you're interested in joining me. The deal is for us to graduate from this course is it has to be a 2-hour seminar where no one leaves via Zoom, and you have at least 25 people on it all the time. So that's one of my challenges. I get to enroll people in joining me. Anyways, so I'm really curious, and I'd like to do what we call popcorn. So is anybody good at timing? Would anybody set a 2-minute timer? Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to go around. Ken, you'll do a 2-minute timer for me? Awesome. And we'll start here, and we'll just go around the room, and 2 minutes, I would love for you to tell me, what is your biggest fear in business, and what holds you back from having the business that you really want, that successful, profitable business where you're thinking to yourself, this is easy, the money just comes in. So I'd love to hear, what is it, so there's a couple things you could say in those 2 minutes. What is your biggest fear? What is your biggest worry? And what is holding you back? Or what's not working in your business? And when I say what's not working, it's what should I be doing and I'm not doing? Like, what is not working for me in this business, okay? All right, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Karen Bird, and I've helped thousands of athletes get their confidence and peak performance, and I also teach and train other hypnotists how to work with athletes. And I have it's a 5-month structured program where it's step-by-step. This is what I do with each athlete. And then we have coaching calls, and I'll walk you through if things change or it's a little different for them. So that's a little bit about me. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and you guys will be getting this if you scan the QR code, you can get a download for it. You'll also be put on my email list. You can unsubscribe if you'd like. Although if you do, I will be reaching out about this new journey I am on, which is the book writing with my son. So you'll get some of that stuff and the workshop that I'll be doing on that. But what I want you to do first, and I do this with most of my clients, is a lot of times what we're all dealing with is fears and worries. We know that it's in our head, right? It's the story we're telling ourselves about not being good enough, not having enough clients, not knowing what I'm doing, fear of failure. One thing that really resonated with me years ago is when one of my business coaches said to me, "You know more than you think you know. So stop holding yourself back," right? But one thing I like to do with clients is have them drop into their heart. And when I started dropping into my heart and getting out of my head, I realized that it was so much easier to work with athletes and to even know what my higher self, my soul wanted. So just for a moment, I'm gonna have you guys do that. I want you to put your left hand on your heart and your right hand over that. And just close your eyes. And take a deep breath, hold it for a moment. Imagine the thoughts swirling in your head. And as you exhale, just drop into your heart. In fact, feel yourself in your heart. Allow your heart to open. Notice how warm and safe it is in here. Allow it to open like an opening blossom, not to me or anyone else, but to yourself. Just feel yourself in your heart. Okay, go ahead and open your eyes. Okay. That brings you out of the head, because when we're in the head, we're so busy in that conscious mind, which we know that with hypnosis, and we try to get out of that, we get out of that conscious mind. Dropping into your heart is one of the first things that I do, even with athletes. What I started doing a few years ago when I work with athletes is I ask them to drop into their heart, because if they are in my office, that means they're a very good athlete, because they wouldn't be in my office if they weren't. And if they drop into their heart and feel the heart of a champion, which they have if they're working that hard, then they're going to see things change, because when they're leading from their heart and not their head, they realize how much they love the sport and how great they are. So that's one of the first things they do. But the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I do this with every client actually, this is my process that I've came up with, and I use it with athletes and I use it with every other client, is the first thing that I do is I ask them, what's working and what's not working in your life? Maybe it's your life or your sport, or what's working and what's not working. And sometimes they don't really know how to answer that question, but it helps them to start thinking about what's working is I go to practice every day. What's working is that I try my hardest. What's not working is that I don't believe in myself. What's not working is I'm not really liking it anymore. So whatever's working or not working, right? So that's one of the first questions. The second question I ask them is, if I could give you 3 things, let's say I was a genie. Now I got this from Michael DeShalla. I loved he's got this little genie script. Give 3 things that you could be, feel, do, or have by the time we're finished working together. What would those 3 things be? And it could be anything. And it starts me to be able to start taking notes so that I can, and this is what I do with all my clients, is write affirmations with them. And not only affirmations, but one massive contract. And the affirmations go through different questions. So we only have 10 minutes here. You guys will be getting this, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I want to go back to some of the reasons that you guys are feeling stuck. Is, asking things like your short-term and long-term goals. What does it feel like to be in the zone? How do you feel when you start to compete, and how do you want to feel? Writing an affirmation, I feel confident, calm, focused, and ready when I step into the ring, or I step on the mat, or I step in the field. Asking them what they hear their coaches and their coaches, their parents say about what they should or could improve. They'll come up with it, and then writing affirmation statements, obviously, around that in the positive present tense. Things like, I get the first takedown, or I get, the ball is, I'm a magnet and the ball comes to me because I feel like the ball never comes to me. So writing in that positive present tense. And then if you could rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 in how confident you are in your ability to play your sport, or even how confident you are in life, or, if it's not an athlete, what would that be? And they'll think about it and they'll give me a number. And then the question that is very invoking for them is, what is in the gap between that number and being a 10? And you get a lot of great answers from that. They'll tell you what's in the gap. And that's similar to the question that I asked you guys. What's in the gap of you having the successful business? Because not one of you in here is any less capable of what I am doing, or Karen Hand's doing, or Ken's doing, or Joni's doing, or Cheryl's doing. No one is less capable. It's a matter of getting to the place of realizing that you have the training, you're here at the conferences, all of the information is out there. We are here to help you. That's why we want you guys to be successful. That's why Joni does what she does. That's why Ken teaches his smoking cessation, because he knows how to work with athletes or with smokers and do it quickly and easily. Like, we've already been there. We've done this for so many years that I want to save you guys the time. They want to save you guys the time of making the mistakes we made in the beginning. And here's the thing is, you guys, like I said, you know more than you think you know. So get out there and recognize what it is that's holding you back. Why you're not making money is because you get to just do it. Like, jump in, do it. 100% is possible 100% of the time. And tell yourself that every single day when you wake up, right? It's consistency. It's continually learning. And it's staying out of those scarcity there's not enough of, right? Because when we get to a place where I've gotten even in my life where I realize one of my big, what I call nerds, and it's things that hold me back, are I'm often in a there's not enough time story in my head. And when I realize that there is enough time, it's all about what I'm creating in my life. And we can actually stretch time. And how do we stretch time? We get out of the doing all the time. Because when we're in the doing, we're not in the space of allowing and surrendering to what it is that we do know. So we can stretch time by taking a few moments and sitting back and acknowledging what it is that is the story in our head, that is a story in your head, and get out of all of the doing, and just sit back and recognize and take a moment to just be. Just be in the being, and notice how you are as good as anyone else. And you guys have this amazing tool is, I truly believe this, when we got into hypnosis, we got into this field or profession for a reason. And it's because we want to help people. And it's because we have a mission in life. And when we're so stuck in our story, we can't live that mission, right? So get out of your story and recognize what it is that holds you back, and then start telling yourself a different story. So whatever it is that I heard, you know, the imposter syndrome, right? Like, we've all moved through this, but the imposter syndrome, the not knowing where to start, the scarcity, the, again, the time, how to market, the imposter syndrome again, the being vulnerable, the what if I waste my time, right? What if I waste my money? One of the best things that I use with my clients is, if you didn't say what if, but you said even if, how would that change your story?
That's good.
Right? So even if I start to work with athletes and I realize I'd rather work with someone that has, you know, grief counseling or smokers, I'm telling you, you've learned a lot, right? Even if I'm not able to, so for me, here's an example, is this month I finally started focusing on this book that I'm writing, and I'm super excited about it. And I'm also taking this Emotional Intelligence Master Leadership course, and I just found out shortly before we came here that in order for me to graduate in the course in June, I not only have to do this thesis, I also have to coach the level below, which I've already graduated from, which is 2 4-day weekends in March. And I freaked out. I thought, I just started writing this book. I have, you know, so again, my time nerd, right? I recognize my time nerd. I don't want to do it. That's 8 days out of my life. What's that going to do to my business? I'm not going to be able to write. And then I got to the place of, I got to recognize that everything that I do, I learn from. This has got to be serving me somehow to coach this course, to become a coach. It makes me a better coach. It'll make me a better writer. It'll make me better in everything I do. And it's not a waste of time. It's 1 month out of my life, right? 1 month out of my life that I get to take to better myself. And it's like that with anything, is everything we do, as long as we're consistently moving through it, we're learning from it. So be in the being and not the doing. And when you hear the what ifs, ask yourself, even if. What did I learn from it? Who did I become because of it? Right? So, okay. What else? Do you guys have any questions so far? Yes.
Regarding your sessions, so with like peak performance in sports, do you do like a minimum number of sessions with clients, or how do you structure that?
I do 4 sessions with athletes.
Sure.
Now with other clients, it depends on what they're coming for. But with athletes, I have a 4-session structured program. And then at the end of the 4, I offer and suggest that they come back at the start of a season, when competition starts to ramp up, that self-doubt creeps in. There's so many things we can work on. But the 4 sessions are a pretty structured mindset training program with the added benefit of hypnosis.
Yeah.
That's what I offer it as. Yes?
So do you take them out of season, during season, or?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yes. But a lot of athletes now are in season year-round. And so it doesn't matter. They go from, you know, summer to fall to winter clubs to spring clubs, and yeah. All right. Well, we are about out of time. I have a few moments. I just wanted to tell you guys that I really appreciate you coming. I know that there are a lot of classes to choose from. And if there's anything that I can give you as a takeaway today, it's to just keep going, to believe in yourselves and know that you know what you're doing as you start learning. And it's all about practice and confidence. I've been doing this for a long time, and I remember doing free weight loss clinics, and I'll work with your athlete for free, and that's how we get started, right? It's just practice. And it's like anything, practice makes perfect. Just like with athletes, you don't start out being an amazing baseball player. And also know that you can be an amazing baseball player if you put your time and energy into it.